In the summer of 2013, a then unknown team of future North American superstars took the LCS by storm.
And he's gonna hit the Nexus with their eyes on the Nexus, their eyes on the summer split, completely undefeated.
In an instant, Cloud9 became a household name in the esports community and were going to become one of the most successful esports organizations in the world. Despite their early dominance in the league, 2015 held a very different feeling for Cloud9 fans. The pinnacle of league competition, the World Championships, is just around the corner, and C9 are facing a brutal reality. They are absolutely f***ed. To understand how they got into this position, why this situation is so damning, and how they could possibly recover their awful season, we'll need to go on a journey. One that will take us back through time when the LCS was simpler and the world was brighter. One that will ask how one player could influence the outcome of a match like no one else could. And the wildest thing, this isn't for a trophy or a spot in the playoffs or even a qualify for the LCS. But this is the greatest run in LCS history.
Because right now only one thing is certain. The Cloud9 of old is gone for good.
While there are many great moments in LCS history, this is the league's only miracle. To understand why this moment in 2015 is so significant for C9, we need to go back and take a look at their debut. Because, put simply, no team in the LCS has ever debuted like this one. Back in 2013, the game was newer, League Esports was still finding its footing, and the LCS was only in its second ever split. This was not the professional, highly polished, franchised LCS that we see today. This was back when 5 guys, burgers, fries, and a dream could make a run from solo queue all the way to the pro scene. And Cloud9 catapulted from the cash registers of McDonald's right to the peak of North American League of Legends. After qualifying for the LCS in the summer of 2013, Cloud9 came out of nowhere and were light years ahead of every other team at the time with 5 brand new players. Remember, this was at a time where teams didn't have coaches. The players were responsible for all the out-of-game prep, including drafts. So their support, Lemon Nation, had the idea to write down their drafts in a notebook and carry it on stage. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous. Draft prep sheets are the standard everywhere today, but Lemon created a formal written system about how they should approach their games and champion choices before anyone else, which, believe it or not, was a genuine step forward for a pro team at the time, especially in somewhere like NA that didn't have the more entrenched pro gaming roots of somewhere like South Korea. And Cloud9's belief in their meta reads paid off instantly, bringing out new picks like Elise, Zac, Ashe, and Zyra. Cloud9 were ahead of the meta and knew what power picks they could exploit against their less prepared rivals.
They were also just really good. The jungler Meteos was so dominant that junglers from China and Korea went on the record saying they studied his VODs to improve, and he almost certainly would have won MVP if the award had existed at the time. Balls was tearing it up on his signature rumble in the top lane, and Sneaky was the same brilliant and versatile teamfighter that he'd be for the rest of his career. And all this without mentioning their captain and mid laner Hai, still to this day one of the most influential players from North America. Hai was an aggressive, in-your-face laner pulling out picks like Zed, Jason Cannon, who was always pushing himself and his team to take every advantage they could. But more than his early mechanical prowess, Hai is still to this day synonymous with shot calling.
We got this game, guys, come on!
No matter the situation, Hai was able to find the right openings in a game, rally his team behind him, and thread the needle to victory. Although at this point they were so dominant, it was less like threading a needle and more like the Kool-Aid Man busting through a brick wall.
This team had no established superstars to carry them when they came in. No Doublelift, no Hotshot GG, no Dyrus, no Reginald. The old guard had no power here. C9 didn't need them. While NA's other teams still played like 5 individuals, each doing their own thing, Cloud9 looked like a cohesive unit. They had a lot of personality, and their gaming house was probably a biohazard, but above all, they seemed to be friends both in and out of game.
Did you set that up yourself, Balls?
What?
You just put tennis rackets and balls on your bed to show that you do that?
No.
Yeah, you did.
No,
There's no way.
No, I didn't do that.
Yeah, oh, I'm done with the day of tennis. Oh, right here, my bed, perfectly placed.
This team was lightning in a bottle. C9 were really the only LCS team to ever achieve what the LCS in that era was all about. The idea that anyone could grab a couple of buddies and go from their bedroom to playing in an arena in front of thousands of fans if only they were good enough. I think that's why this original Cloud9 roster meant so much to so many people, including me. I started playing League and watching the LCS in summer 2013, and C9 were the team that made me fall in love with competitive League. I projected my friends and I onto their story and dreamed that one day we'd make it too. And they must have had a pretty big impact on me because 11 years later, I work at the LCS. They were new, just like I was, and they kept winning into the next year. To my 13-year-old eyes, it looked like this golden age would last forever. What could go wrong?
Fast forward to the summer of 2015, and after 10 games, Cloud9 are sitting one loss out of 9th place, with less than a month left to play in the regular season, a stark departure from their previous finishes of first, and second. What was supposed to be the start of a new era for C9 has quickly turned into a nightmare. With the losses mounting, C9 aren't just staring down the barrel of missing the playoffs for the first time ever, they're at risk of getting relegated. In a 2015 LCS world with no venture capital, no huge sponsors, and no guarantee they'd ever make it back, it could be a death sentence. With elimination from playoffs on the horizon, they have officially entered panic mode. So what happened to the once dominant org? How did a team who could seemingly only win the LCS fall so far that they stand almost no chance of winning the trophy? Well, for starters, C9 have lost their literal centerpiece. Shortly after spring finals, Hai announced a shock retirement from professional play, citing his ongoing battle with injuries and his playstyle not being viable anymore. Well, how did that happen?
After Hai and Cloud9 set the LCS on fire back in 2013, TSM, the team everyone thought were going to win it all, had to go back to the drawing board. They didn't take a single game off of C9 in summer, and their titular solo mid and owner Reginald did a very un-Reginald-like thing and announced his own shock retirement. To replace him, he made one of the most impactful roster decisions in LCS history and picked up a young Danish prospect named Bjergsen.
I'm Bjergsen. I heard you guys need a new mid laner.
Who the fuck are you?
In his first split, it didn't really matter. Sure, Bjergsen won MVP in the regular season, but Hai had his number in the playoffs and didn't die a single time against TSM on his way to Finals MVP. C9 had just won their first 2 splits back-to-back. So how did Hai go from Finals perfection to retirement in just 1 year? 3 weeks after spring finals, one of Hai's lungs suddenly collapsed, leaving him hospitalized. And despite streaming from his hospital bed less than 48 hours after the accident, he wasn't able to attend All-Stars in Paris. Around this time, Hai also started experiencing chronic wrist injuries that severely limited his ability to practice with the team, leading to a slow decline in his individual skill.
At first, it was impossible to tell. Cloud9 had a slow start to 2014 summer, and Hai occasionally had some tape on his wrist, but they barely managed to squeak out first place in the regular season, and they kept their undefeated record in playoffs alive. It wasn't until their third straight finals vs TSM where cracks started to show. Things were business as usual in game 1 and 3 when Hai got on his signature Zed, but with Zed off the table in games 2 and 4, Bjergsen beat him out easily. Hai did okay in the climactic game 5, but couldn't carry on Yasuo in the clutch. And with just a few crits from Wild Turtle in the game's final teamfight, Cloud9 were no longer immortal. For the first time, they had underperformed compared to their standards. And now this does feel a bit unfair given their previous standard was perfection, but heavy lies the crown. But nobody was upset at Hai just yet. That series was down to the wire, and it could have gone either way. The real dip in form came at the 2014 World Championship in South Korea. They put up a good showing and pushed Samsung Blue, arguably the second best team at Worlds, to the brink in quarters. But over the course of the tournament, it became clear that Hai couldn't really measure up 1v1 against the very best mids in the world anymore. In every other tournament, C9 felt like they were winning because Hai was an elite mid laner with an extra dimension of leadership and creativity. But at Worlds, it felt like they were just using that creativity to get out of tight spots created as a consequence of their mid laner being behind every game. And if Faker's rise to power in 2013 proved one thing, it's that having your mid laner be the best player in the server is a really good way to win League of Legends games.
Hai's form continued to decline in 2015 spring. C9 had yet another slow start to the season, but could only recover to second place this time. And while they still limped their way in the finals versus TSM, this time it wasn't even close. By now, the conversation around Hai's playstyle had changed from an elite mid laner with elite leadership skills to a supportive carry, which was code for he's intentionally sacking his lane so we can put all his effort and resources towards helping the team. Now, how much of this was cope from C9 fans like me and how much of it was legitimate is up for debate. But there was one thing that couldn't be ignored. Hai's wrist issues only continued to worsen. He went on to reveal in later interviews that he was sometimes practicing only half as much as his teammates at the time. And as his form worsened, his team started to lose faith in him, both as a player and a leader, making his shot calling less effective. He also lamented that the game had changed and his playstyle wasn't really viable anymore. You can't just let the other mid laner become the strongest player in the game and expect to win championships. He thought he could probably stick it out for another split, but decided it wouldn't be fair to his team since things would only get worse. So he made the selfless decision and decided to retire from professional play.
That left Cloud9 to look for a replacement, and after holding tryouts, settled on European solo queue star Incarnation, better known now as Jensen, one of the longest standing LCS players of all time who's still playing today. Like Bjergsen to TSM, Jensen was supposed to be a Danish shot in the arm that not only brought success back to the team, but kept them afloat in the first place. Remember, this is the pre-franchising era of the LCS. Bad results didn't just mean your season was over early, really bad results could see you relegated from the league entirely, especially as interest and talent had begun to start flooding into the league. Unfortunately for Cloud9's 2015 summer season, Jensen is not the panacea they were all asking for. Despite his solo queue pedigree, this is Jensen's rookie split and first foray into professional play, and it's showing in their results. Everyone was expecting Jensen to be another Bjergsen, hard carrying games on assassins like Fizz and Zed, the champions he was known for terrorizing the ladder with. Instead, most of his games were on his now signature control mages as he tried to adjust to the more team-oriented environment of the pro leagues, and Cloud9 starts off summer 1-3. So Manny, as a C9 fan, at the time, how did you feel when Jensen replaced Hai?
I was pretty shocked, to be honest. Hai was my favorite player, so seeing that they were getting someone new and he was retiring, I didn't see that coming at all. I didn't know about the injuries, but I kind of had anticipated that Incarnation, I'd seen the dodge lull montage. I thought he was going to be slamming like Zed and Fizz every game. So when this man locked in AP Kog'Maw first against TSM, I was like, what is going on here? I thought it would be a much different story. And they did win that game versus TSM, but that proved to be the exception rather than the norm.
And did people think it was Jensen's fault?
I think deep down, they probably didn't, but it is Reddit. So at the time, people are looking for a scapegoat, and Cloud9 had just gotten rid of that original roster, right? They had killed the Golden Goose. And so Jensen, as the new guy, as the odd man out, got a lot of flame. The management also definitely did get, questioned over this, but you know how it is in NA, right? Stop me if you've heard this one before. A new player comes in and isn't immediately the best in their role in the league, and everyone gets mad at them. It's a classic. Regardless of the reasons, Jensen is not to blame for the team's summer shortcomings, and while it was likely a confluence of factors that landed C9 in this predicament, one thing is ringing loud and clear. Cloud9 are incapable of playing the game without Hai. The leadership vacuum left in the middle of the map cannot be filled by C9's current personnel, so after week 5, sitting at 3-7, they make the only logical step. They bring Hai out of retirement and back onto the starting roster. But wait a second, if Hai's there, and Jensen's there, where's Meteos? Well, you see, they're not bringing Hai back to play mid lane. They're bringing him back to play jungle. This is not Hai's first rodeo as a jungler. He does technically have competitive experience in the role on Quantic back in 2012, but for Cloud9 fans who would take to Reddit spamming bring back Hai, this was not the solution they were thinking of. Understandably, Cloud9 didn't want to ditch their rookie mid laner that they just imported from Europe after half a split, but for most LCS fans, they just watched a team replace one of the strongest junglers the league had ever seen with a guy that had just given up on pro play only a few months ago. Certainly a bold experiment.
And the experiment does not start well. Cloud9 lose their first week of games with Hai in the jungle, going 0-2 to debut their new roster and bringing their dismal season record to 3-9. However, the team did rally to finish the rest of the season with a stellar record of 3-3. But they did learn some valuable things in those 6 games. The most important being that when they play the meta, they still can't win. In order to succeed, they're gonna have to get weird.
Okay, Hai on the Rengar.
Hai's wins come not on Rek'Sai, but on Rengar. Not on Sejuani, but on Shyvana. Everyone remembers their final game of the regular season against TSM, but they do not remember the game before, where Hai picked Nunu and they lost to TDK, one of the worst teams in LCS history. It wasn't perfect, but going 50% was good enough for the critical tiebreaker against Team 8, where they won the one extra game required of them to secure 7th place and no longer be in danger of getting relegated. They didn't make playoffs, but right now, they don't care. For the Story Dog, the nightmare is over. Or is it?
So normally, a 7th place summer finish would mean your season is already done. Sure, you might get to play on the same team again next year, but being out of playoffs typically meant you'd run out of games to play that season. However, Cloud9's spring success, coupled with them squeaking out a 7th place, did let them retain their championship points. Now, this system doesn't exist anymore, probably for good reason, but back in the day, teams got awarded points based on their performance throughout the season. The idea being to reward teams for consistency and strong finishes. These points would help teams qualify for the ultimate end-of-year destination, the World Championship. Putting yourself in the shoes of the Cloud9 organization, it's easy to imagine at this point that you're thinking about next year a lot more than the games in front of you. While they successfully avoided the perils of relegation, there's still a lot of uncertainty about C9's future. Do they keep most of this roster and run it back, or start fresh? Even though the team retains its slot in the league for another year, the future of its players is a lot less certain. Do they build a roster around Jensen, who's been middle of the road so far? Balls and Elimination look like they could be falling off, and what about Meteos? He's been far too good to ride the bench.
While C9 are likely focused mostly on next year, there's one player who hasn't given up on Worlds, and it's the guy who had just recently given up his whole career. Back in week 6, before his first game on stage as a jungler, Hai promised Jensen that if he showed up to play, Hai would take him to his first Worlds. Now 3 teams from North America get to go to Worlds this year. One of them is the 2015 Summer Champion, CLG. The second is the remaining team with the most championship points, that's TSM. And the last is the winner of the regional qualifier known colloquially among the league community as the Gauntlet. Getting into the Gauntlet requires you not to be fighting for your life in relegations, which thankfully Cloud9 have already checked off. But the other element of the Gauntlet, even after you've qualified, is its very unique format. See, this isn't a normal tournament style mini bracket, this is a brawl.
Teams are seeded based on their championship point totals, with the highest seeded team at the summit, the final boss of the qualifier, if you will. The remaining teams are then seeded by the next highest points, and so on, in a ladder-style bracket that sees the best team based on points at the top only having to play 1 series to make Worlds, and the 2 lowest seeding teams all the way at the bottom having to play 3 grueling single-elimination best-of-5s in order to qualify. If you haven't guessed it already, Cloud9 are at the bottom for this qualifier that they almost didn't qualify for in the first place. And it's not like this qualifier is filled with NPC teams either. Remember, by regular season standards, Cloud9 are bad. They are not the favorites they once were. They are massive underdogs. To start with, they have to fight Gravity, who finished tied for 3rd in the regular season, but were in contention for the top spot in most of the split, before drawing the short straw that was finals every single split TSM in the first round.
Team Impulse is up next, and they also got trounced in playoffs by a finalist, getting swept by CLG in the semis. That being said, they have Impact playing out of his mind like usual, and the reigning regular season MVP Rush on their squad too.
The final boss is Team Liquid, who actually finished 1st in the regular season. They've been great all split with former world champion Piglet and look poised to have a potentially title-winning run in the postseason before being dispatched by TSM. Oh, and one more thing. The Gauntlet is scheduled across just 3 days. Not only is every single series in the Gauntlet a do-or-die single-elimination slugfest, but if they want to win, Cloud9 will have to play and prep the maximum amount of series. On average, a pro league game in this era lasts the better part of an hour, making this schedule extra grueling for the teams starting at the bottom. If C9 are going to make Worlds, they're going to have to win 3 best-of-5s in 3 days. That's a maximum of 15 straight stage games.
So a dejected, underprepared Cloud9 with a starting roster that looks nothing like how they started their season is standing at the bottom of the mountain, looking up. You can't think about next year. You can't even think about Worlds. You just have to play the games in front of you. If there's one thing my experience talking to professional gamers for a decade has taught me though, it's that every competitor's through line is the same. I don't care what the odds are, I just want to win. Let me play, and play Cloud9 will. The Gravity series starts exactly as everyone expects, and C9 are quickly down 0-2 to start things off. Hai tries to cook a little with the Amumu pick, but it's to no avail. The team just looks lost. All Gravity have to do is take 1 game in the next 3 and they'll move on, finally putting an end to C9's dismal season. At this point, Cloud9 have a choice. They could abandon their weird picks and go back to the meta, playing around either the new mid laner they insist is the star of the future, or maybe their AD carry, who's been their team's lone bright spot this summer. Or they could double down and give the ball back to their recently retired mid laner, off-rolling in the jungle playing champions that we haven't seen in years. Which option would you pick?
Something in. Does Hai go back to the Shyvana? He does. The Gravity fans very happy as they're looking at game point. Cloud9 looking to keep themselves alive in the Gauntlet. The North American Regionals going into game 3 now. Cloud9 versus Gravity as we get onto the Rift. Cloud9 with their first big lead in a game though here. Hai looking to get out of a bad situation.
Hunter goes. Oh, hello!
Hunter is going to follow. They have vision there. They knew it was a double. Altec has all the heal he wants from High. You can see High now trying to run away on the other side. A great flash to distance himself. Cloud9 very much so looking to keep themselves alive here. Zeroed out with the shockwave. The ball movement was not known. Cloud9 has their eyes on the prize. That's going to be the last hit. Just a tip onto Altec. And it's 16 to 12. Cloud9 keeps the dream of worlds alive. Now 2-1 versus Gravity. Good, that utility that he brings.
Oh!
Explode if they get it.
Oh, from the backside.
Oh boy. Oh, even more damage. Is it going to be the kill? Hail of arrows. Sneaky flashes in.
I'm gonna go on TF. TF. Oh, TF. TF over here. TF over here. Careful.
Ash. Move is down, so it's not even a 50-50 smite.
What are they gonna do for Buddy?
Cloud9 really want this game 5. That's going to be Altec as well. One after the other is, I believe we're going to a game 5. Cloud9 keeping the world's hope alive, and they're going to get their own 2 wins over Gravity. Cloud9 and Gravity are going to a game 5. High is there, no mana, but still staying in spider form, could finish it off. Flashes in with the red buff as well to keep move in range, and they are able to come back from the 2-0, or I should say 0-2 that Gravity put them in, to go 3-2 versus Gravity in the first Gauntlet game of the North American Summer Split. Cloud9 are moving on to take on Impulse.
Coming off the high of their reverse sweep of Gravity, one of the most impressive feats a team can pull off in a best of 5, Cloud9 have to collect themselves and come back tomorrow. Team Impulse is next, and things are no less bleak through 2 games. Only this time, the eye test looks much worse. Unlike yesterday, C9 give High the ball right away, giving him both his Elise and Devourer Shyvana, and he falls completely flat. Remember that High, an off-roll substitute, is being asked to go up against Rush, the reigning league MVP, and it kinda shows. Despite C9 throwing literally half their bans at Rush, he still styles on them. It's worth mentioning that High isn't on this team, in this role even, because he's the best person for the job skill-wise. Even High himself would likely admit to not being that strong of a jungler. He's certainly not as good a jungler as he was a mid laner, and for the myriad of reasons we've discussed already, his overall health and form is declining. Even though he's getting better every game, Jensen is still adjusting to the bright lights and is inconsistent. Balls and Lemonation are fine, but mostly just treading water and trying not to get exploited too hard against players that have shown a much higher individual skill ceiling this split. Sneaky, for what it's worth, is still the same player he's always been, and he is absolutely carrying this team at points. It's easy to focus on the new guys coming in for Cloud9, but Sneaky deserves a shout out here. He is once again consistently overperforming for this team in the clutch.
But if there's a player to rally around for Cloud9, it's High. The same recent retiree that they brought back in a different role because his voice in-game was more valuable to the team than his position. If High is known for one thing, still to this day, many years after he's officially retired as a player, it's his leadership. His value as a captain, his ability to see the game in a certain way, to find angles no matter how small that lead to victory and rally his team towards them at full speed.
It's High's intangible ability to get shit done that Cloud9 need again in this series. Somehow they found themselves in the exact same spot they were yesterday, down 0-2 against an opponent that on paper is just better. If they can't pull off another reverse sweep, their season is over. Surely there's no way they could come back from this. So, of course, they do it again.
Another lane. But they don't! They didn't have Incarnation go solo the AD carry here. Gets out the Shen ultimate, then gets taunted.
Gets taunted, but there's the jump into the side. Whipball buys a lot of time, and Gate gets jumped on by Sneaky the same. Now Elimination trying to run away, very low on health. Zeke's Harbinger is on, and that's a couple of kills picked up with the 2-for-1. Impact the next one. That's a huge fight. A Quadra for Sneaky comes through. Holy cow, Cloud9. The dream of their reverse sweep is here. And Cloud9 close it out in 28 minutes.
Team, Shen can stand united.
Stun land, he will! Engage, they find High, the knockouts come through, but he's gonna stay alive for this one. Agent in the back line, easy kill picked up. Now how is it gonna be for the Vayne? Incarnation kills off Gate, Impact is next up. A 3-for-0. Cloud9 are coming back in this one. No need to. It's worked. Impact to the front side, goodbye! Shen is down, no stand united, but there's the knockouts. That's gonna be the ace, that's gonna be Cloud9. The dream of the reverse sweep is still playing out, and C9 are gonna take down game 4. they will knock that down. The inhibitor's open, they give it to Apollo. Here's the engage, the knockback by Azir, and goodbye, that's the first kill. Cloud9, they want to qualify for Worlds. Here they go. Nexus turret number 1. Where's the defense? It's not there. Impulse have to give up the base. They give up the game. They give up the series. Cloud9 get the reverse sweep, and they're going to face Team Liquid.
Initially coming over.
Five more games.
Just in time.
Two down, one to go. And as the format dictates, you get to save the best for last. Which, when you're trying to win a qualifying tournament to the most important tournament of the year, is not a welcome proposition. All that's left is the regular season winners Team Liquid standing against this unlikely Cloud9 run. A run that already looked over twice in 2 days. If we'd had the "It's So Over, We're So Back" meme in 2015, this series would have been a perfect encapsulation of that roller coaster. But at this point, there's really only one way that this can end.
Oh, baby. We got Draven.
Nice stops up the ganks here, and now High's going for a brute force gank. If they get something, it's going to be
very low. Piglet's next. There's the cash-in. It's a 30-minute win. Cloud9's killed everybody at this point. No one left to really stop them from pushing the base in. Sneaky goes for more. He stuns Piglet. He gets a triple kill. 8-0-3 on the Draven. He knows it's the league of himself. There's the Nexus, there's the game. Holy cow, Cloud9, taking down game 1.
As if this team hasn't thrown us enough curveballs yet, C9 managed to do something they haven't done yet this qualifier, win game 1. They will not need another miracle today. What changed? Momentum. C9 have all the confidence in the world and are red hot, having just played over half a regular season's worth of stage games in the last 72 hours. TL, on the other hand, haven't played a stage game in over a month. They are ice cold and have had 2 full days to internalize that C9 seem to have a date with destiny, and despite all logic, they're going to have to be the third wheel, or the fourth wheel, I guess. C9 are at their best when their backs are against the wall. They've been maximizing their experience point gain all split long, and suddenly it all just clicks. Since facing TSM with their season on the line in the final day of the regular season, Cloud9 have come face to face with the end of their year time and time again, and yet here they stand. A perfect 8-0 when facing elimination. So when TL stomps them in game 2 and evens the series, C9 hardly break a sweat. They've faced worse. So they put their heads down and get back to work.
2 tanks are missing but falls to the next casualty as Phoenix stays alive in the back. Sneaky fighting Piglet, the shield is in! Are you kidding me? Holy moly, a 2 for 2!
High is just trying to body them because the game is over. 57 minutes, 5 dragons, 96,000 gold and counting. Cloud9 is going to be 1 game away from World.
And it's not going to happen. Secure on the Baron, but Quas getting jumped on. Incarnation High in the mix. They've already picked up 1, but they did trade for the Scion. More continues happening as High's in the back line. Piglet's trying to run, and he's going to get away. The Q comes out. Incarnation gets hasted. There's the auto attack. There's the kill. OP pop. They're going to stay for it. Dragon gets picked up just in time, but here comes Scion. Piglet flashes, all is well. With a slow land, they revealed him. High's going to land this javelin. He does. Is he in the rain for the hunt? Yes, he is. There's the shutdown.
This might be the push to send Cloud9 to the World Championship.
15 seconds. Here comes Scion. Into the backline he goes. Doesn't find a champion, but the turrets are in front already. Dominate takes a bind. Dominate takes a javelin. Turret 1 is gone. Turret 2 under fire. Piglet's up in 4. There's the knockup, but there's the cash-in.
It's gonna be it.
Sneaky takes him out. Quas is dead. Onto the Nexus they go. A double for Sneaky. Piglet's back up, but Piglet's slowed down. Shockwave buys some time. Phoenix is 1 hit away, but cannot kill him off. Incarnation zones him out. That's gonna be the Nexus. That's gonna be the game. That's gonna be a trip to the World Championship for Cloud9.
And Lemon Nation almost can't believe it. From 7th place in the regular season to Worlds.
Alright, I held my promise. I brought you to Worlds.
Cloud9 emerged from the Gauntlet bruised, battered, beat down, but never, ever out. High keeps his promise, and Cloud9 does the unthinkable. They keep winning when everything and everyone surrounding them said they couldn't. They're a team of destiny. I remember watching this series with 3 of my friends in high school, jumping up and down, crowded around my big chunky Dell laptop on the last day of summer vacation. After they beat TL in game 1, it was like we all knew that no matter what happened, no matter how bad things got, C9 were gonna win in the end. The fans knew it, the casters knew it, the players knew it. Hell, Jack had bought plane tickets to Korea before the series even started. It was like after everything C9 had been through on those 3 golden days in August 2015, they had to win. They just had to. And with that, the greatest run in LCS history is complete, as Cloud9 fans witness miracle after miracle after miracle and get to watch their team at Worlds.
Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. I'm Pastry, by the way. This is Manny. We both work on the LCS broadcast, but we're launching this channel as a passion project and we'd love it if you stuck around for more.
New videos drop on the first Friday of every month, so mark those calendars and stay tuned for what we got cooking. You can look forward to videos just like this every single month.
And if you liked the video, you can demonstrate that love by hitting the thumb icon, and feel free to let us know what you really thought of the video by yapping in the comments below. Oh, Manny, how did C9 do at Worlds that year?
You know, it's crazy they just ended the tournament after 3 games.